Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining me today for this week's edition of SMIE Consulting's Midweek Roundup. We're live here today in frosty Northwest Ohio, where we're enjoying -6 or 7 to 9 degrees Fahrenheit with minus 40 degree wind chill. So fun time to be in the Midwest in the United States. So staying inside and staying warm. I'm glad you're with us today on Wednesday, January 30th for a discussion of 3 important issues that have crossed the news wires in the last week or so. We're going to be taking a look at these 3 issues and also, as we do with each episode of SMIE Consulting Midweek Roundup, we try to personalize this to see how these kinds of stories can be adapted, and the lessons learned from some of the articles that we read and how they can be potentially applied to your own institution. So we're looking forward to discussing with you today these 3 issues. And they're coming from 3 of our very reliable news sources in international education. We'll start off with University World News and an article on how to attract international students in difficult times. We'll then go to an article from the PI News that profiles collaborative efforts from Scottish universities to buck the trends of declining international enrollments. And then also finish with an article from Forbes that looks at the importance of knowing your competition, as this article in particular looks at Canada and the United States as different 2 of the top destinations for international students and what may be working or not working in relation to their international admissions strategies as countries and then institutions as well. So we'll be looking at all of that, and as per usual, we'll be posting comments. You're welcome to post comments or ask questions in the chat section of the SMIE Consulting Facebook page. We look forward to that. I'll also be posting the links to all of the different articles we'll be talking about today. So that's the plan, so let's get right to it. We'll start with University World News. Article by Alan Parise and Jared Bruckner. Alan I've gotten to know on LinkedIn over the past few months, and certainly has his own consulting business and does quite a bit with institutions in the UK. But what I really like about this article is not letting the boo birds get you down attitude that Alan takes, and certainly he focuses on the message. This message is for the U.S. higher ed audience, and in the article they highlight in particular UK university that's bucked the trends in that country to really see substantial growth in international student enrollments over the last 2 or 3 years, particularly since the Brexit vote. So we'll talk about what that means and that kind of modeling means for U.S. institutions that might be in similar situations, looking to go against the grain, so to speak, in terms of student recruitment overseas. So what I really like about the article is they look at De Montfort University in the UK, certainly not one of the top schools, at least in terms of name brand that exists in the UK. But what they've experienced between 2012 and 2016-17, they've grown their international enrollment 70%, 70%. And that's kind of the baseline for this article on looking at why they've been so successful. And that's compared to a UK growth of less than 3%. They've seen, obviously, a substantial increase in income to the institution as a result of these students. And really, you see during the course of this article, you're reading how they've really overcome a lot of challenges. And what they started with, they refocused their international strategy even before the referendum took place in 2016. They were refocusing their international strategy on a couple different things. They wanted to avoid both over-reliance on a single market, and they reduced inefficiencies generated by working in too many markets. So that's kind of a dual focus of what their international population looked like. So what DMU, De Montfort University, had done is they started DMU Global Program, giving their own students international experiences for placements around the world. 3,000 students were placed in 2017-18. They had their students doing work placements at the FIFA World Cup, field trips to Brazil, China, Gambia, internships in DMU's 2 offices in Beijing and Delhi. They also looked on the inbound side. They looked at a lot of reasons they started looking at partnerships. And this is one of the trends in the UK, and certainly growing in the US in recent years, has been pathway providers. And they signed on with Oxford International Education Group in 2013 to be their pathway provider, an undergraduate pathway that was part of an integrated 4-year degree program for the university that allowed the students to get a single entry visa, which is an important piece of the puzzle. They also looked at having a very ambitious international strategy, again, by diversifying, but not overly, by not being overly reliant on one source country. They looked at, and their goal they've set, with a 5-year plan of having 20% international student population and a globally minded student and staff population by 2020. So that's a significant jump for them, from about 3 or 4% up to 20% in about a 5-year period. So they also looked at when Brexit happened, they were ready. Within that, when that referendum happened, there was a lot of concern about what was going to happen with EU markets and then some core non-EU markets. And then within 24 hours of the referendum, they began a Love International, and that was a hashtag Love International, which was a series of trips overseas to key markets for them: Cyprus, Poland, Sweden, Lithuania, Germany, and then also some non-EU markets in India, China, and the US. And if you're not familiar, in the UK right now, the US is had been the second, but is now the 3rd largest source country for international students studying in England, or in the UK. So what's happened with their results? They've been dramatically successful in their recruitment, as the 70% figure we quoted earlier is. But what they also looked at is some of their processes that they have in terms of applications. So the application process for students. They looked at simplifying their admissions process to not make it overly complicated for international students. So making that information clearly available and entry requirements listed somewhere on the site and easily accessible. They just want to know what it's going to take to be admitted, students do, and that's part of the clear message, the clarity that De Montfort set in motion to make their admissions process a much smoother and transparent one. They also wanted to make it simpler. Their philosophy was only asking for what they needed to decide admissions. GPA, transcripts, and a passport photo, for example. 3 years of transcripts, that's it. No more. That's an example of what might be a step that U.S. institutions can take. And looking at student statements, motivational statements, essays, that type of thing, are those really mission critical to your to whether you admit students or not? So for international students, this is something that the article suggests, and certainly that's one thing that by simplifying our admissions processes, I think there's room for growth. We do tend to make things fairly complex, far more complicated than anywhere else in the world to be admitted to our institutions in terms of the requirements that we all have with test score, different tests for different institutions, different programs, and different requirements for different programs, and essays and letters of recommendation that are foreign concepts for everywhere else in the world. But looking at our admissions processes, and certainly that's not one that usually are going to be changeable within an international admissions office themselves, and usually will involve multiple layers of university or college administration approval to happen. But certainly something to take a look at is how our admissions processes are too complicated. And looking at the related factor is speed. How quickly are we making decisions once we get that? Obviously, if you have a admissions deadline for where applications come in, how quickly are you turning those around? Is it a month and a half, 2 months, or is it a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks? So this is part of what you need to look at in the big picture is students want things yesterday. They don't want things in 2-3 weeks. So how efficient are you in terms of getting back to you? And that's certainly the fastest. Schools, universities out there, and pathway providers, they get offers to students typically within a day in the current market in a lot of countries. Alan Priest, who wrote the article, has a background working for int'l actually as he was the COO for that company. And they've led certainly the charge in the United States, along with 34 other providers, to really grow their footprints in the U.S. So he's talking from experience, and the speed of delivery in terms of your decisions, in terms of the simplicity of your applications. These are things that are, if changed, can really benefit your institution. So De Montfort, as they explain in the article, is a great example of what's happening there. So definitely encourage you all to give that a look. Another thing, and Lou, thanks again for joining us today, and hope you're well and staying warm with the impending polar vortex that will be hitting your part of the world shortly. We'll move on to the second article, which is it's a Pie News story on the collective voice being the key to international success, say Scottish universities. And I bring this up as not just to say how, as another across the pond kind of an example, but what these Scottish universities are finding successful is really what I think is leading the way for a lot of institutions in terms of how their value can be translated to a broader international student audience. So what I've seen and the article certainly with Scotland shows that they've also created a campaign called Scotland is Now, hashtag Scotland is Now, launched by the government, Scottish governments, and British Council started their UK government's £60 million GREAT campaign that were touting options for Scottish universities to get involved and promote themselves. So the collaborative impact of these two initiatives has really helped unite Scottish institutions in a common cause. And that's something that I think in the US we've kind of fallen away from in recent years. And I say that with my experience working with state consortia around the country when I was with Education USA, and also back to my time in Indiana when we launched and had one of the most successful state consortia going for a number of years, for a 6 or 7 year run. There were Indiana was really a destination for international students. The state consortia, and not just in Indiana, but I know in the early 2000s, when shortly after 9/11, there were just a handful of consortia around. I know Destination Indiana was one of the early ones. There were probably 5 or 6 when Destination Indiana came into existence in 2002. But since then, the number of state consortia, I think, peaked at about 34 or so in 2013, 2014, where when at Education USA, we had at the Education USA Forum, we had actually kind of a mini workshop or a couple of sessions specifically for state consortia members who were looking to develop their own consortia more deeply and to kind of learn best practices, frankly, on how they could be improving what they're doing in their offerings for international students, counselors, EduUSA advisors, whatever it might be. So I think this the example that these Scottish institutions are pursuing with their own global campaign for Scotland, joining in the British campaign on how that is producing the much greater impact, bang for the buck, so to speak, or bang for the pound, globally than individually going out on their own. And I think that that kind of model always makes sense, not just in times when things are great, everybody's experiencing the best of what there is to offer. But you see these kind of collaborative efforts really coming out of a deep desire to, on the international side of things, to really grow and to buck trends and to unite around a common cause. State consortia in the early noughties, that's what was really driving a lot of those individual states to improve what they were doing as a destination state. We did that in Indiana, but that happened around the country. You see now what's happening with these consortia. There's a recent article, I think, in the NASA International Educator that profiles consortia. George Kasenga, who had been very involved in Study Colorado when it was formed in early 2012, I think it was. But there's a lot of goodwill that's been created through these consortia, and certainly when you're talking about the United States as a destination market for students, they obviously we know that they have so many choices, and when states can band together and share the strength of their own institutions, it helps to put more of a laser focus on individual states rather than the entire country as potential places for international students. So I think there's great benefits in this collaborative efforts, and I'll be writing about this for Hot Courses Group now. I think they've just rebranded on the B2B side with IDP. Since they were purchased by IDP, they're now called IDP Connect, and looking forward to seeing where that goes. But I'll be writing about the impact of collaboration and consortia in the post 9/11 world on an upcoming article for Hot Courses that'll be out hopefully first week in February, and then again at the beginning of March or end of February we'll have another article on how that can be replicated in this post 2016 election cycle that we're in. And whereas the UK institutions are dealing with Brexit, we're dealing with the elections, post-2016 elections, and the impact that our current administration has had on a very basic level, the rhetoric surrounding international education in the United States, but also some of the policy issues that have been proposed or implemented that are potential roadblocks. So consortia can band together, and advocacy is going to be a big piece of our success moving forward as an industry in the United States. And certainly the more we have people who are well educated in what international education does beyond the dollars, which is obviously impactful for legislatures around the country, but more importantly, what it does for our students on our campuses, for our communities where they live, the resources that these students bring to our campuses and our communities is just phenomenal. And the more people we can educate on that front, consortia have a role in that. Obviously, individually, we do NASA's Advocacy Day coming up. Other events like that are ones we should all be jumping on. So there's certainly plenty to focus on in what we do to keep us busy at least, but certainly many things that will keep us up nights. And I certainly want to take time now to really focus on this on when we talk about collaboration and consortia, like this article mentions with the Scottish universities. When you look at it, when we talk to international students about why they decide to go where they do, oftentimes there are things that come up that students want clarity. Students want to know what the policies are, what the procedures are at individual institutions, but also when it comes to coming into the United States or coming into Canada, whatever it might be. And an article from Forbes that we'll showcase here last addresses just this issue, and it's called "International Students Ponder Where to Get the Best Education," and it's an immigration attorney that has business in Canada and the U.S. And he takes a look at the U.S. and Canada being kind of what he concludes as two of the top destination countries for international students. And it talks about kind of what we think is as some of the benefits of the United States as a destination, being that we still have some of the best universities in the world, obviously clear, clear on that front. But how we are also policy-wise, procedurally, putting out some things that are causing students a cause for concern. The travel bans, even though that the volume of students that are directly impacted by these travel bans is very minimal, and frankly, there are exemptions aside from Syria and North Korea. There are exemptions to the travel ban in the what was approved by the Supreme Court that they can the students from all of those countries except North Korea and Syria are still able to come and apply for visas to come and study in the United States, and that are not part of the ban. This is, but the challenge again is the rhetoric that is surrounding this issue of the travel ban and whether we are now a welcoming country or not. And Your Welcome Here certainly addressed that. We've talked about that here in the past. But you see other areas of U.S. immigration policy that is a train wreck to begin with. Everybody knows this. But whether it's H-1B processing, STEM OPT processing, green card delays for those that are H-1B looking to become green card holders and then eventually citizenship on their path. So when you look at it, going back to who our focus is here, students. What is their main focus? They are most concerned about, when they're choosing countries to study, availability of student visas. According to an ISEF survey from this past year, availability of student visas was number one at 70%. The next most significant was finances at 35%, and the global and economic political situation was at 25%. Those were the top three reasons that decided where students were going to study. So they don't like uncertainty. They don't want to potentially be coming to a country that is going to shut its doors to international students. And you hear these stories regularly in the press, and that not only in the U.S. but abroad, and just when they hear rumors about certain proposals, or they actually read a tweet from our current president, it just totally throws them off and sends them into a tizzy. That creates uncertainty in the minds of our future students. And I like the article in that it talks about, on the immigration side, what in Canada, for example, there are now very clear pathways for students, where they call it, they have the Student Direct Stream program in Canada, and that it does make it very clear in terms of how students that are looking to come to Canada for study, what it might mean for them in terms of potential express entry, for having a very clear path to becoming immigrants and citizens of Canada. To work after graduation obviously is a key for most students that are going anywhere for study outside their home country. And Canada certainly addresses that well, and has done for a number of years, but it certainly benefited quite a bit in recent years because of what's happened in the States. So I think it's important that the models that are out there, and when we talked at the top of discussing this article, we talked about how important it is for institutions to understand the mindset of students, that they do have many choices in terms of where to study beyond their home country. And that's something that too many years, U.S. institutions have not factored that into their overall marketing strategy. They don't really care that they might be also looking at the UK and Canada and maybe Australia. You have one student from India that might be looking at all three of those destination countries, or 4 destination countries. So it's important and incumbent upon us as individual institutions and international educators to really put things into context when we're designing our enrollment strategies, recruitment strategies for these students. That are we aware of, if a student's looking at us compared to Canada, are we aware of what, other than it's not as cold, at least right now perhaps, as it might be north of the border. In certain parts of the country it is colder than north of the border. But what are we doing in our marketing messaging that portrays enough of the positives about the United States that can also answer some of the negatives that student impressions are of our country, but also that might preempt some potential advantages of other countries. How do we put ourselves in that best light? So really it's incumbent upon all of us to really take that to heart when we're putting our recruitment strategies together. And this one, again, knowing your competition is an important piece of that puzzle. So hopefully today we've covered a bit of what you need to know as it relates to top stories in the news. And certainly each week we'll continue to provide these perspectives to you here on Facebook Live. But also, for those who didn't catch a particular episode, there's an archive of these on our Facebook page for SMIE Consulting. You can also find it on our YouTube channel. There's a playlist specifically for each of the Midweek Roundups. And also, if you prefer podcasts and you don't need to see me, that's great. You're certainly welcome to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, Stitcher, whatever your favorite podcast provider is. Our podcast of this episode and each of our weekly roundups midweek roundups will be available for you. So hope to catch up again with you soon, and we look forward to hearing your feedback on these podcasts and others in the weeks and months to come. Have a great day and stay warm, everybody.